To my melanated family and spiritually conscious brothers and sisters around the world, I am Brother Tommy, and it's time to get it in. Uganda passes a law banning LGBTQ in their country, and the white media is going nuts. Look at how the white media is reacting. Look at how different prime ministers, the different press secretaries that they put up there in front of you to discuss the different things that are going on in the world. They're acting as if African countries do not have the right to make their own decisions. So, melanated family around the world, just as I said, we need to have a global approach to transgender issues and gender identity issues. We need to literally see this for what it is and have a global response to what it really is. So, because the last I checked, Uganda was an independent country, and African nations have gained their independence in large order across the continent, is what my last understanding was, and that the Africans are sovereign in their own land and have the ability to have their own cultural identity. I'm sure their parliament has the ability to bring forth laws and legislations which they think is best for the Ugandan people, or just like the Kenyan parliament thinks is best for the Kenyan people, and so on. And that since independence, what has been fed to the world that they're independent is so they should be able to live life on their own terms. And living life on your own terms would not be making certain decisions. And then next thing you know, you look up, you have European leaders all across the world condemning you and threatening to take away your money, any help that we provide you, any assistance. We're going to strip you from it. This is what these people are saying. So really, we as a melanated family need to really start asking ourselves some real basic questions. Are these African nations truly independent? And independent in the true sense of independence, economic independence, in terms of where they are bringing forth raw materials out of the ground, producing items, and having control of those things, So are they truly independent? And it doesn't seem to be that's the case, because if that was the case, why are European countries able to get on TV and put out in the media talking about a sovereign country, an independent country, and the laws that they make for their citizens over there? There's nowhere on earth that an African country can go to a European country and complain about any law that these Europeans choose to put on their books. They wouldn't hear it. They would look at Africans as if they were crazy. Like, how dare you? So really, we have to look at what is the real deal and what does it really have to do with. From the way I see it, and I think a lot of my brothers and sisters are seeing it the same way, this is really colonization. This is really showing you who are the true powers or the economic powers of Africa. The Europeans. The Europeans are flexing their muscle continuously. And if you look at the base bone of a lot of these African economies, if you look at who's running the show, if you look at the aid that they're receiving, the loans, who they're receiving them from, they're really still in a very subservient position to the European on the continent, just like brothers and sisters are here in America, in the States, Turtle Island. I'm not throwing no shade one way or another, but I'm just saying we just need to recognize that this is the case, and white folks and white supremacists are showing it. This is all about colonization, domination, that we dominate you culturally, physically, economically, militarily. Tell me where there's one really, really strong dominating African military for these to be independent countries. Name one dominant, strong African military, and why is that the case? So we really need to look at this deeper. This is basically colonizers chastising and telling their old colonies exactly what they want to do, and the fact that they better get to stepping or get in line or we'll cut off your aid. And the thing about it, they'll even have black people, or so-called black people here in America speaking on behalf, chastising the Africans for the white man. You got the Jean-Pierre lady. She's up there talking to Africans like they ain't worth a nothing. Right there in the face. I speak for white folks, and this is what I say, and how dare y'all. Yeah, so we have this master-slave relationship still going on in the minds of a lot of people. Of course, I know my conscious brothers and sisters have broken free from that paradigm and that construct, but it is still pushing, and it's pushing heavy. So, and we got to look at it. Are these African countries truly economically free? Because, you're looking at colonization, you're looking at domination economically, militarily, and now they want to continue to grow their European culture inside of African nations. And they started it years ago with their Romanized versions of Christianity and lily white gods and Jesuses that they brought forth onto African people after bringing great suffering onto them. That's what you do. You just make a people suffer and bring great suffering onto them, and then now they can acquiesce to the game in which you're willing to bring. And that's what they were doing. So they started with bringing in European culture, European ideas, European thought patterns, European behavior patterns with the concept of Jesus. And they're just continuing to do the same with European products, European lifestyle, European thought processes. So it's just deepening on the continent of Africa. And now they're at a point of telling them that not only will we have you be poor in your land and be broke in your land and living in a hut when you have a very rich soil, we're going to also force you to be laying up with another man in that hut as well. And force your woman to be laid up with another woman in that hut. And we're going to force these crazy gender identity issues that we're dealing with America right down your throat because we dominate you. And we're going to watch some videos and there's some brothers that, I'm going to show that's going to bring some really good understanding of how they're doing this. How did this community be so, formidable? Who is behind them? Who's giving them this power, and how are they bringing it about? Because it's ridiculous for a European country that puts forth all its efforts in making sure that Africa is poor, bad health, impoverished, unsanitary, not in control of their destiny. I mean, never cared about the development of African people in African communities in a positive way, only destroyed them. Like as Brother Chancellor Williams wrote in his book, The Destruction of Ancient or Black Civilizations. Come on, nothing but destruction of our ancient civilizations and our ancient ways. And then all of a sudden, they want to create a posture as if they care. As if, we care about this particular community and they're going to have these problems. No, you don't care. Matter of fact, your policies, like a lot of the African leaders are fully aware of, and they're pointing out on their own that your policies, your actions, your way of doing things when it comes to our continent is the very reason why the continent is in the position itself. But the moment an African nation stands up and say, hey, we're not going to buy into this European way of reducing our numbers, of bringing death to our people, of not allowing our children to flourish in a proper way, that they're going to bring all these consequences and negative ways against African people. So we really need to wake up. And this should be a sign to My brothers and sisters that are over here in the States, on Turtle Island, which is our indigenous land, they're doing the exact same thing to us here. We are being dictated to in our own land. Our neighborhoods, our communities, the land we used to own is now in their hands, and we don't have it so that we could use it for its proper purposes. This is them showing that we will dominate you. We will continue to dominate you. So we have to stand up, and we have to stand up globally from a melanated perspective all day long. If we just change our minds, we can change the world.
In our country, we will have our morals. We will protect our children. And we are making this law. We are making this law for ourselves. We are making this law for our children. We are making this law for the children of our children. This country will stand firm. And once it passed, I can tell you, Madam Speaker, we are going to reinforce the law enforcement officers to make sure that homosexuals have no space in Uganda.
Same-sex relations are already illegal in Uganda and over 30 other African countries. The new law would introduce steep sentences, life in prison for same-sex relations, and the death penalty for aggravated homosexuality, which according to the bill involves gay sex with people under 18 or when the perpetrator is HIV positive, among other categories.
As you might have expected, the Western countries, led by America, are swiftly condemning this bill and are already dishing out the threats should Uganda sign the bill into law.
The bill is one of the most extreme anti-LGBTQI+ laws in the world. If the AHA is signed into law and enacted, it would impinge upon universal human rights, jeopardize progress in the fight against HIV/AIDS, deter tourism, and invest in Uganda and damage Uganda's international reputation.
Every time I hear this woman get up there and do her book of lies, she reminds me of the book 2000 Seasons by Ayikwe Amar, where he speaks of the Askaris. And Askaris was those who took on the ways of their oppressors and became them. And what he says in the book is that we wander now along steep roads, declining into the whitest death. Along these highways, whatever we may do will fight against ourselves. How could there be other possibilities? For seasons and seasons and seasons, all our movement have been a going against ourself, a journey into our killer's desires. Killers who from the desert brought us in the aftermath of a Noah's prophecy, a choice of death. Death of our spirit, the clogging destruction of our mind with their senseless religion of slavery. She's an Askari, ladies and gentlemen.
We're certainly watching this real closely, and we would have to take a look at whether or not there might be repercussions that we would have to take, perhaps in an economic way, should this law actually get passed and enacted. And that would be really unfortunate, because so much of the economic assistance that we provide Uganda is health assistance, and largely through PEPFAR. You can see a world in which, a law like this, should it be enacted, would not only, as Karine rightly said, just be devastating to a whole community of people inside Uganda, but if it were to have any kind of an effect on our economic assistance, that would only make that worse. So,
how independent of a nation are you if your former colonizer can threaten to take away financial aid away from you? Shouldn't an independent nation not need financial aid from anyone else?
I want to begin by taking a moment to condemn in the absolute strongest terms the despicable law put forward by the Ugandan government discriminating against the 2S LGBTQI+ community. This is something that Canada totally and completely stands against. We will be looking at how we can support the community in Uganda as we continue to stand for LGBTQI+ rights in Canada and around the world. And we call upon all leaders, including all leaders around the world, but particularly Commonwealth leaders, to come out and clearly condemn.
Listen to what he just said, family. He said we'll figure out a way in how we can support that community over there. I'll tell you a way. Sabotage, pit one against the other, create a political or economic crisis. Family, I recommend the reading of the book, The Economic Hitman. Trust me, they know what they're doing.
Nobody is hunting them. But because they come and want to force us to say homosexuality, oh yeah, that's how you get now a backlash. They are the ones who are provoking all this. Our attitude on homosexuality is that these are deviants. They are deviants from the normal. There is the normal, there is the deviation from the normal. But you don't kill. The deviation from normal is also part of nature. You can get somebody born with 6 fingers instead of 5. You can't kill him. But then you don't go around and say, oh, this one, the deviation is the normal. It is the provocation by the Western countries.
President Museveni makes a good point here. I think most rational and reasonable people can definitely understand that there would be, especially if the universe has unlimited possibilities, that there would be people on earth who would want to, partake in certain types of behavior, people who do this, people who that. So I don't think that that is the issue at all. I think what the majority of people are saying, especially black cultures or indigenous cultures, what they're saying is when it comes to our way is the natural way of things. We understand that nature provides anomalies or deviations to the norm. We don't disagree or go away from that at all. We're just stating that we don't, like he just said in a really prominent way, we don't make that the normal. And so the forcing it down your throat, this deviation or aberration or your personal expression, people should be able to express themselves in any way that they choose, in a proper manner, because one's freedom ends where another one's begins. So long as people are expressing themselves in a positive way that isn't harming or hurting people, people don't have an issue with what you choose to do, how you choose to express yourself. But when you get to the point where you want to change what a woman is, you want to change what a man is, you want to say or allow everything now to be based off feelings, well, you don't have to go along with that. People don't have to accept that, and when they don't accept it, it's not that they want to harm you or that they're against you as a person or what you stand for. People are focused on what is best for the community, how we move forward as a community, and how we continue to grow our nation state as a people, as a family. That's all we're looking at it from that standpoint. The idea that, somebody wants to harm you or mistreat you because you feel this way or that way, people don't care about that. I don't even know why they play so many games with that. People do not care about that. People are out here trying to live their lives, trying to accomplish things, trying to live in their purpose. They're not worried about you walking down the street with all this crazy stuff on. They ain't concerned about it. They're concerned about you trying to teach it to their children, trying to make it something that is normal or normalized. That's where most people have their issue at.
By the Western countries,
to Western human rights groups, to President Obama, to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people.
Respect African societies and their values. If you don't agree, you just keep quiet. Let's manage our society the way we see. If we are wrong, we shall find out by ourselves. Just the way we don't interfere with yours.
Polygamy is illegal in Germany. Not only is it illegal, you could end up with a fine and a jail term of up to 3 years. One would think and expect that a country as liberal as Germany or any other country in Western Europe in promoting human rights would also have, people practice whatever they want to practice. But the reality is that every country is entitled to enact legislation or laws that promotes moral values of that particular.
Europeans can make their own laws, govern themselves, and everything is just fine. But not you black folks. You melanated people of the world, you bet not. You bet not attempt to govern yourself and do for yourself, or veer away or steer away from the indoctrination of the European and the things that we bring to you. No, we're the only ones allowed to govern ourselves or have control of ourselves, have control of our bodies, have control of our lands, have loyal title to our lands. Not you. I don't understand why melanated people could see how these Europeans are flexing their power and not understand that we are truly still at war. And until we become fully liberated as a people, we should be only focused on coming together. Listen intently, family. This brother right here does an excellent job of explaining how this power base began to grow and how it became as powerful as it is. He has a great explanation.
Between ethnicity and so-called sexual orientation. Absolutely there are. Ethnicity is innate and unchangeable. So-called sexual orientation is not innate and it is changeable. We know this. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 is 2,000-year-old evidence that people stop being gay. So we know that it's neither innate nor is it unchangeable. So there are huge differences between the two. However, if all you're doing is using the language of the culture and the idea of people as constituencies, then you end up right where we are, and it's hard to stop that train. I think there are some things that we accepted philosophically in the civil rights movement that were not based in biblical truth. And those things are being applied in the gay rights movement the exact same way. And now we're calling them out. For example, the idea of constituentizing people, to create a word, seeing people as constituencies and seeing rights as rights for constituencies of people. And this continued division of ourselves based on our constituencies and our so-called communities, this community, that community, the other community, and rights being sort of divvied up by community. That's problematic. I think what we're seeing now is the homosexual community latching on to some of those very concepts. These concepts, by the way, which are rooted and grounded in cultural Marxism. This was the goal of Gramscian Marxism. Divide people up into constituencies. And then the way you gain power is by making promises to and representing particular constituencies. Now, you never give them what you promise, but by creating this idea of constituencies and being the one who is the representative of the constituencies, you gain power and you keep your power to the degree that things don't get better for your constituency. So now what happens is, even when gains are made, you have to downplay those and go looking for other things that are problems. Because again, that's the way you keep your power. The homosexual community has latched onto that, has identified themselves as a constituency who is deserving of our attention and our pity. They did this intentionally using the AIDS crisis. And the direct result is they now have achieved a one-to-one correlation that we're finding it very hard to move away from.
Family, by the time things get to this stage, you have to know that they're well coordinated, well thought out, and well planned. Pulling on your heartstrings, utilizing sympathy and the individual that we know we all love, family and everybody, and nobody wants to see anybody harmed, mistreated in any way, shape, or form. But it's really just a game to bring about a death of a culture and a death of a people. And a people have the right to decide if they want to survive, if they want to move forward, if they want to prosper, if they want to grow. But right now we still have colonial overlords that are on our backs, and we don't want to acknowledge it because they throw Jay-Z as a successful person out there, Beyonce as a successful person out there, Oprah, when the Europeans have the ability to push one button and to stop all their riches. They've frozen billions of dollars in assets of many people, and the elite in this country, white, black, otherwise, know that they can do the same. So what do they really have? So it's an alignment with a group of people who want to have control over the melanated people of the world so they can continue to have control over the resources of the world. And getting you to buy into what they believe is best for you is how you end up taking a pill that kills yourself. And they're doing it at the highest level, even when on the spiritual level, because we know as above, so below, that things are going on high before they manifest on the physical realm. Now let's look at what they're looking to do on the spiritual realm, because here recently in the state of Georgia, we got to see, I don't think I ever seen a pastor that recommends abortions or, says it's okay to have an abortion. But that's what we have in Raphael Warnock. So they're changing the guard even spiritually and going against their own word, being very hypocritical, and black folk are just following them right across the road. So they're doing it even on the spiritual level. So let's see what they're doing even on the spiritual level and how they're getting people to influence you to accept things as well.
Todos hijos de Dios. Y Dios nos quiere como estamos y con la fuerza que luchamos cada uno por nuestra dignidad. Ser homosexual no es un delito, no es un delito. Sí, pero es pecado. Bueno, primero, distingamos pecado por delito. Pero también es pecado la falta de caridad con el prójimo. ¿Y vos cómo andás? La condena de la homosexualidad viene de lejos. Hoy día, por ejemplo, creo que los países que tienen condena legal son más de 50. No la nombran directamente, pero dicen aquellos que tienen actitudes antinaturales, o sea, buscan decirlo de manera escondida. Creo que sí.
Thanks for tuning in, my melanated family. I appreciate the love and the support. So go ahead and click that like button. Definitely need your support. And also subscribe to the channel and continue to like my videos, and I'm going to continue to come with that fire. And I'm going to let my brothers and sisters on the African continent express themselves on the way out the door. Much love, family. See you on the next one.
I'm so glad, I'm very happy for what the parliament has passed, because those are the prayers we have been having in our society, so that that thing cannot be exposed, like it cannot be expanded. People to get into that thing, because it's not right for the society, even for our children, our kids, even our youth. because we have seen, they had not yet passed it through the law, but we have seen already the effect of the homosexuals. We thank and we are glad that our players was answered by God.
After Uganda's parliament passed sweeping anti-gay legislation, which proposes tough penalties for same-sex relationships following a highly charged and chaotic season, residents of the capital Kampala largely hailed the bill.
The bill was passed yesterday and we are very happy. As citizens of Uganda, culturally, we don't accept the homosexuality, lesbianism, LGBTQ. We cannot, as Africans, we want to produce. We want everything to run normally.
The legislation enjoys broad public support in Uganda, and reaction from civil society has been muted following years of erosion of civic space under Museveni's increasing authoritarian rule.
The bill which had been passed for life, for those people who are interested in such a thing, though I'm a parent, children of ours are the ones doing such a things. If the Parliament had decided, it is okay, because I can't see such a child of mine doing such a thing.
Discussion about the bill in Parliament was laced with homophobic rhetoric, with lawmakers conflating child sexual abuse with consensual same-sex activity between adults.
If you look at the history of countries around the world, when you start treating people differently, not because of any harm they're doing anybody, but because they're different, that's the path whereby freedoms begin to erode. And bad things happen. And when a government gets in the habit of treating people differently, those habits can spread. If somebody is a law-abiding citizen who is going about their business and working in a job and obeying the traffic signs and doing all the other things that good citizens are supposed to do, and not harming anybody, the idea that they are going to be treated differently or abused because of who they love is wrong. Full stop.
Just like President Obama, I think we also need to be able to speak frankly about some of these things. And the fact of the matter is that Kenya and the United States, we share so many values. Our common love for democracy, entrepreneurship, value for families. These are things that we share. But there are some things that we must admit we don't share. Our culture, our societies don't accept. It's very difficult for us to be able to impose on people that which they themselves do not accept. This is why I repeatedly say that for Kenyans today, the issue of gay rights is really a non-issue. We want to focus on other areas that are day-to-day living for our people. The health issues that we have discussed with President Obama, these are critical. Issues of ensuring inclusivity and of women, a huge section of society that is normally left out of the mainstream of economic development. What we can do in terms of infrastructure, what we can do in terms of education, in terms of our roads, in terms of giving our people power, encouraging entrepreneurship. These are the key focuses. Maybe once, like you have, overcome some of these challenges, we can begin to look at new ones. But as of now, the fact remains that this issue is not really an issue that is on the foremost mind of Kenyans, and that is the fact.